by the teachers, parents, and student council from both schools. Okay, let's start out with
Me?
Sure, you're the existing board member.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Welch. I've been on the Nadaburg Unified School District Board for 4 years. I'm a Wittmann native. My family has lived in Wittmann since 1956, and I have been a volunteer firefighter, a member and vice president of the PTSA at Nadaburg, and I have 4 children, 2 of whom currently attend Desert Oasis Elementary School.
Okay, Matt?
My name is Matt Varitek. I've never run for anything before, but I think this is the way that I can give back to the community through the things that I value and pass along the education that I've received. I have a math degree from Illinois State University. I've worked as an actuary for 15 years. Most of that has been in the private health insurance industry, but for the last year I've worked for Access, the state Medicaid plan. Coming from both private and public sector professional experience, I understand the need for a marketable product. I understand the need for competition for students, for customer service and retaining the students we have, and for thinking of the big picture while paying attention to detail. That's what actuaries do for a living, and that's what I plan to bring to the school board. I've lived in Desert Oasis with my wife for 5 years now. We don't have children at the school, but we've been active in volunteering. We work closely with the PTSA, look forward to working with the administration and staff, and building the strongest school we can, keep building on the successes we've had over the last 2 years, and keep it rolling forward, think long term, stay consistent, and keep it positive.
My name is Jody Bodway. I live on 239th and Patton. I have 2 children at Desert Oasis, and both of my knuckleheads are right here. I work for the city of Phoenix, where I'm a police officer. I've been employed with Phoenix for 7 years. Prior to that, we lived in Minnesota. I worked for various security organizations there, and also as a police officer there, and I was also in the military for 8 years as an MP, stationed in various places throughout the world. I was part of a school board, PTSA in Minnesota. I saw how that worked. And I think I have a lot to bring to this one. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll alternate, so Matt, this question will go to you, and each one of you will have a minute to answer. The first question I have is, what prompted you to run for board candidate? What was the attraction, or what need for improvements do you see?
I believe that everybody in the neighborhood benefits when the schools are strong. As I said, I want to pass along the education I've received and help the environment for our children today be the most positive and the most constructive it can be. But even if people live in the community who don't have children that go to the school, we all benefit by the enhanced community ties and the increased property values that come with good schools. There's a lot to feel good about the opportunity to give back. As I mentioned, working for the state Medicaid plan, I value public service, and this is another opportunity for me to give what I can. I don't have a personal agenda or seek any benefit for myself in doing this. My first, last, and only interest is what's best for the children. I will always act with that principle in mind.
Thanks, Matt. Jody?
Can you say the question again?
Sure. What prompted you to run for board candidate? What was the attraction, or what need for improvements do you see?
What prompted me for it is, like I said, I have 2 children at Desert Oasis, a 7th grader and a 3rd grader, and I want them to have the best opportunities the school can provide. I think the district's lacking in some areas as far as some athletics and just the lockers, some sort of locker room, something for the kids to be more involved with athletics, because I think it's a well-rounded academics and athletics makes a better person, makes a better kid. I mean, if you just throw in academics at them, they miss out on other parts of life where they're building social skills and so forth. And as far I do have a little bit of a personal agenda, because I do want to see them and all the other kids have those opportunities, as I did when I was growing up, playing a lot of sports and so forth.
Thanks, Jody. Jimmy?
Well, I've already been on the school board for 4 years. I joined the school board originally because I thought that there was a lot of room for improvement. And we have improved over the last 4 years. We've gone from a D district to a B district. There was a lack of consistency and discipline at both schools, but mostly Desert Oasis. And that has improved over the last year. And like Mr. Bodway, I wanted to make sure that my kids went to school someplace where they were valued and where they would come away with a valuable education.
Thank you. Next question, start with you, Jody. Are you in favor of the upcoming budget override? If so, why? And if not, why not?
You know, honestly, I've been wavering. I was initially in favor of it, and I started doing some research, and I kind of fell out of favor, and now I've went back in favor of it. It's not that much of a tax increase. I'm not a fan of any tax increase, to be honest with you. As an employee of the government, I actually feel the government sometimes has their hand in our pockets too much. But I'm very in support of strong schools. Because like Matt said, a strong school makes for strong neighborhoods, stronger property values, keep your kids well educated, keep them engaged in activities. It makes a better child, better community, which we all can profit from.
Jimmy?
Yes, I do support the budget override. Over the last 4 years, we've really had a hard time with our budget. We've really lost a lot of money due to people moving out of the district and a decrease in tax revenue. And the school district has made some cuts that you guys just probably don't see because we've tried to make every cut in a fashion that does not affect children. It does not affect the classroom. It's all behind the scenes. And next year, if we're forced to do cuts, the problem is that they will affect the classroom. Class sizes will increase and children will have less opportunities. So yeah, I support the override 100%. I'm a taxpayer, my taxes will go up and I'm happy to pay it.
Thank you.
I also am in favor of the override. I understand Jody's point that people feel sometimes like we're having too much taken from us in terms of taxes. But I look at this as an investment and a necessary one for the reasons of protecting property values, for ensuring that we don't suffer damaging cuts that hurt the kids in the classroom, like Jimmy talked about. I think there's plenty of opportunity for people to get their opinions out one way or the other. But I think we owe it to the kids in the school to ensure that their funding is consistent, to make sure that we can build on the success we've had. If we have to cut back vital programs, especially like Jody talked about earlier, that may not necessarily be academically oriented, but they help kids grow. They help kids understand what may be special about them. I have friends who have played football. I've had friends who are professional. Well, my sister is a professional artist. I know musicians, and all these people have benefited from education that they've received that doesn't necessarily fit into a standardized test. We need to have every opportunity we can to keep every child active and involved in something that gives them a reason to feel good about what they're doing, and maybe get something out of the rest of the day while they're at it.
Thank you. And keeping with the budget, the next question I have says the Nadaburg Unified School District has been suffering a balanced budget. What would you do to bring an increase in monies for NUSD and have a balanced budget? We'll start with Jimmy.
Could you read that again? That didn't.
Nadaburg Unified School District has been suffering a balanced budget. What would you do to bring an increase in monies for Nadaburg and have a balanced budget? I didn't write them, I just read them.
I think it means that we're suffering from
A balance?
a loss
I don't know,
of
a
budget,
loss of balance,
lots
I
of
guess.
money in the budget, but yeah, that's true. We have been losing money, and what would I do to help balance the budget? Well, I mean, as a sitting board member, I can tell you that the school board does not really balance the budget. The staff and the administration work together to decide where they need to make cuts, or if we have extra money, where to spend that money. So I would just to balance the budget, I would support whatever the administration and the teaching staff come up with together. The only way we're going to make money is to either raise taxes, which the school board cannot raise taxes, so I support the budget override, or we can bring in more kids, which I think we can do with the programs that we offer, 200 days of school instead of 180 days, after-school activities, preschool for all children, and full-day kindergarten, even though it's not paid for by the school, or I'm sorry, by the state. It's paid for half by the state, half by the school district.
Okay, Matt?
Well, as a board member, I would see to it that the money that we have available is used as responsibly and effectively as possible. That said, I believe we need the override in the short term. I agree with Jimmy that one way that we can help ensure funding staying consistent in the long run is by aiding our recruitment efforts and our retention efforts. If we build the kind of school that our kids ought to have, then we'll be able to hold on to more students that are within our district. We'll be able to help encourage families that are looking for a place to live to say, hey, come on out to Wittmann, come on out to Surprise. The schools are good and the community is strongly behind them. I think another thing we can do for those that are able is to reach out to people to encourage them to take advantage of the tax credit for donation to the schools. There may be additional funding that we can procure for the school without putting it on a tax increase that some people may legitimately not be able to afford.
Well, as far as balancing the budget, I agree with both of these gentlemen that we have to use what we have more efficiently. And we have to find ways to increase one program, maybe decrease another area, depending on what happens with the override. And I think something that we're missing within this community is there's a lot of people that are the snowbirds. So I know where I live, there's a lot of people from Canada and so forth that have this property out there. And there's a lot of retirees that live out in that area, and they don't have kids in school. It might have been 20, 40 years since they've had kids in school. And they're not gonna be in favor of raising their taxes, so we have to somehow make sure these people are educated on what the override is, because there's a lot of negative information out there, and a lot of misleading information that could sway people against it.
Thank you. Next question is to Matt. What is your position on the current 200-day school schedule?
I was at the board meeting where the 200-day year passed. I support it. I think there's more good than harm that comes from it. And I think it's on all of us, the board, the administration, and the staff, to ensure that time is used as efficiently as it can be. That said, I think there's a lot of value in the size of our district and our ability to take on new programs like the 200 days. A bigger district may not be able to pass that or implement it as quickly as we have and produce some results that say whether or not it's really delivering the bang for the buck that it ought to.
I'm in favor of the 200-day, even though my kids aren't. I don't see anything negative that really come from it. I think we need to make sure what we were doing within the 180 days, if that wasn't working, we have to make sure that's fixed, because if we're just gonna do 200 days of the same thing that's broken, we gotta fix it. You can't just take something that's broken and add another 20 days and hope it's gonna be fixed. So if there is something broken within that 180 days where we can't get up to an A rating, we need to tweak that. And I'm okay leaving it at 200 days. It doesn't bother me either way. Just got a sigh from them over there. I lost my train of thought there. Thanks, kids. That's about all I got there.
Okay, Jimmy.
Yes, I do support the 200 days of school. I think that anytime kids spend in school, as opposed to sitting at home playing video games, watching television, is a good thing. I probably would have been more supportive, like Mr. Brown has pointed out, if we hadn't gone to half days every Friday, if we'd kept half days every other Friday. I think that might have been better for the students, while the teachers might have scoffed at that idea. But you know, I mean, the state legislates that we have to have these kids take this Ames test, they have to prepare for the Ames test, and that takes a lot of time away from teachers to do the things that they want to do with their classes, the extra things that build esteem and teach kids to be, you know, good young adults. And so I think the 200 days gives kids a lot of extra time after Ames to do all of the extra things that the teachers have always wanted to do with their kids. So how can that be bad? I don't know.
Okay, this question comes from our PTSA at Desert Oasis. What is your stance on, and we'll go to, did I start with Matt? Who's sorry?
That's okay.
Two? Okay. What is your stance on fingerprinting volunteers at the school? Are you for it, against it? How do you feel about that? Or anybody volunteering at the school in classrooms and whatnot?
I'm for it. Fingerprinting them. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what the current state law is on it. If they're volunteering, but I don't see an issue with it.
We don't have one right now. There's no.
No.
Right. There's no stats on it. But we thought that as a parent, we'd want kids to, you know, people that are in with our children. We don't know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe they should be fingerprinted, background checked, whatever. If they're volunteering regularly at the school. What is your take?
I'm
Your stand on
100% for it. I don't see anything negative that could come out of the fingerprinting, because if something negative comes out of the background check or the fingerprint, well, you didn't want them there in the first place, you know. So, and I can't imagine the cost being anything that's that bad.
I'm kind of confused by the question because I believe that we already fingerprint our volunteers. I was fingerprinted to be on the board. Mr. Brown was fingerprinted to be on the board.
The
The
volunteers
volunteers
have to
in
be,
the classroom.
you only have to be fingerprinted if you're unsupervised on campus.
Oh, okay.
That, they're not fingerprinted because generally they're with teachers,
Okay.
so that's the thing.
Well, I support it, and I'm embarrassed that I didn't know that we didn't already have that policy because I was under the assumption we did. I think that anybody who volunteers with children, especially unsupervised, but anybody who volunteers with children should be fingerprinted and background checked. We do it for the teachers, we do it for the rest of the staff and the board. So I believe anybody that's gonna be in there should have to do it. Who's gonna pay for it? I don't have an opinion on that, but I think it should be the volunteer, not the school district.
I support it too. I don't see why we put any concerns in front of the safety of the children. And, you know, and part of it fits with the larger picture of building trust between the parents and the community and the school. Like Jimmy said, and like Jody would know as a law enforcement officer, you can't just have anybody running around anywhere, especially when, you know, there are children who could be vulnerable.
Thank you. This one comes from a parent. The position of board member is a legislative position in which an individual is elected into office. However, it's a voluntary position without a salary. This position requires the board member to attend several meetings per year, study sessions and board meeting, in addition to reviewing detailed meeting agendas, which may consist of hundreds of pages of data, exhibits, and other information. This being said, how much of your time are you willing to give to this position, and how committed to this district will you be?
And I get to
Sorry.
start that. I am very committed to this district because I spend a lot of time taking care of board issues, especially lately with the troubles that we've been having. We've been having several meetings a month instead of just one or two. And as board president, I really spend a lot of time, my personal time that I should be at work, talking to lawyers and the Arizona School Board Association to make sure that the board stays out of hot water and to make sure that the school stays out of trouble and doesn't become involved in nasty lawsuits. So How committed am I? 100%. I'm committed enough to give up my work time and work at home after the clock is run out for the day.
Yeah.
I will give whatever it takes. I don't think that I could ask for anybody to vote for me if I wasn't willing to give them that.
Right.
And even those who don't vote for me, I owe that to them as a member of the district, as a member of the board, to do the job right, to do the very best I can. I'm not, as I've said, I've never run for anything before. I've never been involved in a school board, but I'm not afraid of a learning curve. Actuaries spend hundreds of hours studying for every exam we have to take. I've been through them all, so I'm not afraid of sitting down with a big stack of books and reading them until I learn what I need to know.
I'd agree with both of these guys that I wouldn't have went through the paperwork and got my name on the ballot if I wasn't going to be committed to it. It's, I believe, a 4-year commitment, and I'm 100% on board with doing whatever it takes to make this an A+ school district to get it to where it needs to be.
Thank you. And the final question I have comes from the student council here at Nadaburg. They want to know, why do we not have a lot of PE time during the week? The First Lady promotes fitness and the importance of physical activity in our schools across the nation. So what can the school board do to improve the school physical education program? It's to you.
Well, I'll be the first to confess I don't know the particulars of what the physical education program lacks. I will speak to its value. As I think back on my school days, I think some of the proudest moments I had happened in gym class. You know, it's a real treat for a math guy who nobody thinks could catch a football or shoot a ball to be part of the team and get out there and show them, hey, maybe I can play a little bit after all. So I support whatever it takes to keep physical education as part of our entire curriculum. All the kids benefit from it, in, you know, not just in social perspective or even the direct physical fitness, but also the camaraderie that comes from being in a group together, all working towards the same thing. Maybe you spend some time with kids that you might not have as you go through different classes. So I'm in favor of whatever it takes to keep the PE program strong.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm 100% behind PE and making sure it has a stronger presence in both schools. I don't know the particulars of how PE is scheduled in during the school day, but I know like my oldest stays after for an hour for basketball as a after school activity. But I believe that doesn't start until 7th grade, if I know correctly. It's just 7th and 8th grade. So we need to figure out if there's something we can do for the younger ones besides just like academically wise. I don't think there's anything after school for PE for them. If we can figure out something, but that might include getting volunteers to help. That would be fingerprinted. Get volunteers to help and volunteer coaches. I know the cities use all the volunteer coaches, the parents and so forth, and I know they all have to be fingerprinted. And so we can get something like that to get some parents to help out or get volunteers to help with coaching those younger kids. I'm sure that would alleviate a lot of expense on there and it'll alleviate more headaches from teachers if having to stay after they can worry about the academic side of it or something.
It's the budget. We don't have any money. At Nadaburg, we have to pay the principal to be a part-time PE teacher. And at Desert Oasis, we have one PE teacher for 8 grades. So support the override so we can afford to pay our PE teachers.
Okay. In closing, now we have 2 minutes for you guys to close, and we will start with Jody.
I just want to say that out of the 4 of us running, at each meeting, 3 of us are showing up, and I think of the 3 of us are very dedicated to it. We've put in the time, did the paperwork. We're here at these debates, fielding the questions, and showing our commitment to it. And I think it shows how committed us 3 are.
Okay. Jimmy?
And I would like to echo Jody's sentiment. There's 3 of us here. There was one sitting board member who was invited to both of these and has not shown up. And that board member frequently is late to board meetings or doesn't show up to board meetings, which is a fact. I see some oohs and ahs in the audience, but it's a fact. I've never missed a board meeting. I've missed one study session in 4 years because I was out of state for my job. And I have been to both of these. And I'm connected to my community. Like I said before, I've lived here all my life. I've been a volunteer firefighter. I've worked with the PTSA. And I love this school. This school means a lot to me. Desert Oasis as well, but I love this school because this is where I went to school. And I would like to see every child, in 1942, but I would like to see every child in this community have the same opportunities that I had and more. And I just hope people understand how much I love the kids of this community.
Thank you. Matt?
Well, I'd like to thank Jody and Jimmy for coming to both of these. Jimmy, I think you've done a terrific job as board president.
Thank you.
And Jody, I think you make an outstanding board member. Both of you have shown your commitment to making this board be as effective as it can be and making our district be as strong as it can be. And I thank everybody who's taken the time to come to either or both of these. This really is the kind of commitment that will make our schools strong, and I hope we can encourage that from more people within the community, even from people who don't have children that go to the schools. We'll all benefit from the schools being the best they can be, and let's all do what we can to keep it positive and build on the success we've had.
Thank you. That's it for our board forum tonight. Please, I have extra of these copies here if you want to take them with you for the override. They're authored by Sarah over there. Thank you again for coming. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.